Gosh, I have been doing real estate brokerage since 2005. And if you're new here, let me tell you my 21-year story. Just think about it. 21 years is more time than you are even in school, from kindergarten to getting your college diploma. I've been doing real estate that long. And let me tell you my fantastic story. I bought and sold over 40 homes for myself, and I've sold well over 2,000 homes. The way I got into this is actually atypical. Maybe. I went to art school, and after I graduated from art school, I really couldn't make a living in New York being an artist. I did this one piece for Rolex, and they didn't buy it. And now I have a Rolex, but they didn't buy it, and I was devastated. And I was sleeping on a floor in an apartment that I shared with a buddy of mine who had a real job at a corporation. And then I had to get a job at Dunkin Donuts. And fast forward, I worked at Whole Foods. Then I worked at a restaurant in Manhattan. This is about a year and a half out of college. And my cousin came to me and said, why don't you come work for me in Phoenix, Arizona? I'd never been to Phoenix, and I was doing pretty well as a waiter. I was making, $200-300 a night as a 23-year-old is fine. But, he was obviously very successful. So he said you'd have your own house to yourself. I was literally sleeping in a dining alcove with two roommates at that point. So I was into it. And I went out there, and then he said, well, actually, you're going to have to live with this guy and his wife and their two kids. I didn't want to do that. So I moved in with some roommates. But that stuff aside, first year I lived in Phoenix, we sold hundreds of homes. My cousin, who was our broker, had done all these seminars, and he had encouraged people to buy in these Phoenix suburbs, and they could buy a home with $1,000 deposit. And once that home was built, so pre-construction, it was up in equity, $100,000 in most cases. And so they made an infinite return on investment. And then we were off to the races. I was reselling those homes. I was selling new developments. It was an incredible experience for a man in his mid-20s. And then the market crashed. And that was also an incredible time to be educated, even though it was traumatic for me. The period of time from 2009 to 2012 was very fraught. I declared bankruptcy at the end of that time, but the whole time I was driving around, as I like to say, in a Mercedes with a cracked windshield and bald tires. I still sold, I started my own brokerage, about 160 homes during that 3-year period. And I developed a company. I started a brokerage called Homesaver Real Estate. And, for the hand I was dealt, I think I dealt with it very well. And then I moved back to New York. So most people know me as a New York City real estate agent, and I am. I've sold hundreds of homes in New York City, and I've been doing this here since 2011. So that's like 15 years right now, a long time. But when I got to New York, not knowing anything about co-ops or, the details of New York City, I still knew a lot about real estate brokerage, selling homes. I had sold way more homes than most New York City agents ever will by the time I started my New York City career when I was 31. So as an agent, I've worked for all types of cool clients, celebrities, business people, founders, CEOs. I've negotiated amazing deals, and I've also had, transformative experiences on my own. And that's where we live now. But before that, I was part of hundreds and hundreds of deals, and I saved money. So I know what that journey is like to start really with nothing in New York City and get to a place where you can save your money over the course of years, get your credit into a good spot. In my case, I had to do credit repair and find the right deal, negotiate it at the terms you want when the time is right. I advise people on this every day of my life. Parents, people who are buying for their children, people who have young children like me, people who are single, people who are in relationships without children, all types of people who are getting homes here in New York. I advise every day, and I've been that person. So I speak from personal experience. Thanks for going back on my journey with me. If it could go wrong in a real estate transaction, I've been there many times. I've dealt with the roller coaster of emotions that everyone goes through. Like I said, I've bought other homes for investment for my own portfolio, and I've helped major investors. There is no deal too big for me, and there's also no deal too small. Thanks again for spending a little time with me, David Rosen, today to learn about how I got here. If you want to start your New York City housing journey, please reach out to me. I am the key.